So I'm Victor Kampenaerts, I'm riding for Lotto Destiny. I used to be the world hour record holder and I try to change myself now to a classic rider. Didn't win a real classic yet, but got close last year, so let's see what we can do this year.
I can't spend a day in Victor Kampenaerts' shoes, but I did get to sit in the man's seat and I had a great conversation with him about exactly what goes into a hard day's training on the Lotto Destiny training camp.
So today's a hard session. It's not a super long ride, but it's has some real intense efforts. On a hard session like today, I try to simulate a race day. I go on the rollers, has to be quite early in the morning, and I keep the watts really low. It's just to wake up my body, stimulate the neuromuscular system. I do some breathing exercises with a training mask. I create some resistance on the breathing. I don't want to restrict my airflow, but it's just to activate my diaphragm. I do some small cadence sprints. It's just like to get like the brain signals to the muscles, really activate them as good as possible. I really feel like it helps me afterwards on the ride to be comfortable with high cadences. After this, what I usually do is I go in a cold bath to get, you know, like the wake-up call. Feels nice. I try to go in and try to relax, breathe slowly, and then yeah, just get ready. Get my breakfast in. I usually don't eat that much before a ride or before a race. I try to eat a lot of carbs actually, because the carbs are the fuel for riding. We do long rides, but it's still with a lot of accelerations. So I try to get in about 100 to 120 grams of carbs in the morning. Afterwards, I prepare myself a bit for the rides. We're not at home here, I know the roads quite well, but I might have a look on VeloViewer to see you know, where I do my intervals, how the corners look, that I don't have surprises coming up. So the session itself, it was like I think 135k ride. We had 3 somewhat big climbs in there, and we divided the group in 2 with different intervals specific for the riders. The group I was in did like 3 2-minute efforts in the training. Sounds like really small workout, but these 2-minute efforts are extremely brutal. Try to hold the highest power and you're dying. Like the first time when you think you're hitting the wall and your Garmin and you see it's 45 seconds into the interval, still 1 minute 15 to go. So that's really brutal, and that's you know, we want to destroy ourselves in a short effort to go really high in lactate, to then get the cardiovascular system working very hard to eliminate that lactate. I don't mind about sharing my power, so I'm just under 70 kilograms and I pushed out 670 watts in the first interval, 630 in the second, and 600 in the last interval. So of course I fade out towards the end of the training, as every interval is all out. If you would have every interval the same powers, you did it wrong. Those are good numbers, and the rest of the training it's easy. Of course we go over climbs, so we you know, we ride about 270 watts uphill, let's say just under 4 watts per kilogram, which is an easy pace for a pro rider. You have riders that exactly do what their coach say. You have more old school riders that freestyle a bit. But I'm the kind of rider that if my coach tells me something like this is the workout, I always want to know why and what's the goal, and I like we discuss about it and how do you want my system to react in the effort. So we want to produce a lot of lactate today, and you can only produce a lot of lactate when you're full of carbs. You don't want to be low in carb because it's not possible to produce lactate. So I aim roughly to intake 100 to 120 grams of carbs every hour, and I would end up with like 200 watts average, which seems like an easy ride, but I want to be full of carbs in those intervals. It was quite early when we left this morning, so I only had one bottle in the first hour, which we mix up to 40 grams of carbs in every bottle. And so it's quite easy calculating the intake, because when I add it with a gel every 30 minutes, I end up with 100 grams of carbs every hour. And then when we do the longer hills with the efforts, I take one gel and 2 bottles, so I end up with 110 grams of carbs an hour. Just always try to keep in mind how many carbs are you uptaking. We have a car following, so the water we are urinating, we count it, we measure it, so we exactly know what's going in and out, and we want to like not have too much loss. We know by testing about exactly what our salt concentration is, so because we weigh before and after, we exactly know what goes in and out. We also know how much fluid we lost, how much natrium or sodium, how much sodium we lost. And that's really important to have performance on the highest level. You can learn a lot out of training rides, because in race those things we also try to measure before and after weighing, but it's more stressful. It's sometimes you're in a rush and you're in the final and it's really hectical. The parcours is technical, you want to remember the climbs and you miss out on how many bottles you already had. So it can get complicated to keep in mind. So it's way more easy to do it on training. And then like this, we go to races with knowledge, and we want to perform at the highest level, and that's only possible when you put the right fuel in the right engine. We had Mieke Doks joined us for the training ride. She was in another group, but she was at the lunch, and I asked her, she's here from the 1st of January, and she said like, time is going so fast. And then it's like, we talked about like, if you're on a training camp, in a way you're happy when you did the work, so you can look back on a good training camp. So in a way you're happy to go home because you know you did the good work. But in the other way you also know like, this is a very good time. Of course this training camp is not easy and we push ourselves to the limit, but we enjoy it and it's our passion.
So there you have it, an insight into what goes on a hard day on a professional cycling training camp. Big thanks to Victor Campenaerts for letting us shadow him and see what he does. For me, I think one of the biggest takeaways was seeing that these guys, not only do they press the pedals really, really hard, they work incredibly hard at everything around that supports their training to allow them to perform at their best on race day.